There was no talk about mental health other than occasionally you'd hear stories about the family, the substance use, the suicide attempts, when there was something dramatic happening. But it was always said with either shame or blame or anger. There was never any compassion or understanding for what people were going through. And there would seem to be anger about anybody else in the family having to pick up slack or even talk about it, honestly. My mother had a nervous breakdown when I was a teenager, and nobody talked about it. She told me, actually recently, but that's taken 60 years for her to talk about.
You know, when I think of mental health, I think of like my brother and how much he struggled growing up. He has bipolar 1 disorder and ADHD, and I saw him struggle, and honestly, he made our lives very difficult too. He required a lot more attention. He didn't really pull his weight in the household. There was a lot of, everyone kind of had to like cater to him and like make sure he was okay and like don't rock the boat. You know, don't upset him. He's having a good day, or if he's having a bad day, don't upset him. It was a lot of just like, you need to adapt to him because we want to keep the house peaceful. Even though you have your own stuff going on, it always kind of, it had to take a back seat. And like, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand it. As an adult, I can see things clearer now. Like, there was no handbook for my parents back then dealing with my brother and his issues. My parents just kind of had to do the best that they could with what they knew. And like, I remember there were always books all over the house that my mom was reading to try to like understand his condition more. And they tried so hard, you know, and it was difficult, but I know that they did the best that they could with what they had.
We sought out help through the schools. We always had a therapist. We had educational plans. I was always searching for help wherever I could. I lost a brother to suicide, and I think a lot of my parenting around mental health was one of tremendous fear. And I think in some ways I overreacted to things when I saw things that were disturbing, especially with either of my children's behavior. I was likely to really react to that because of that intense fear that I would lose them the same way that I lost my brother.
When I was a kid, there was almost like too much help. It was like everything that happened, okay, you're going to the hospital, you're going to this program, you're going to that. Like, I think part of what I needed is like my family to hear me and understand what was going on, not to be sent away to have professionals deal with it. I think when the drugs and alcohol started to come into play, the 12 steps really did help me. I don't go to meetings anymore, but they did help me get sober, and that was really helpful. And like finding a therapist that you could tell actually cared and would listen to me was really helpful. But like any inpatient programs and stuff like that I was like being forced into and like taken out of my home to be in, those weren't helpful. Those were traumatizing, honestly.
We both know each other so well, and if and you know, she said to me, you know, I'm not getting out of bed, or so I don't know that we're always completely upfront about what's happening, but I think there's certainly cues that we'll give each other, and she's the reason that I'm better. You know, she said to me about 6 or 7 years ago, I want my mother back. And when she said that to me, it was like I really didn't know how bad I was doing. I think somewhere I did. But I didn't really get it until she said that to me, and I realized I was no longer the woman that she grew up with. And that sparked me to go back to that day program I'd been in 2 other times, to go back to 12-step recovery, to do everything that I could or should or needed to do to get better. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for her.
The way that we support each other around mental health is my mom and I are still very close. She's my best friend, and I can call her for anything and she'll help me. We have boundaries now, which is good. I made a decision 6 or 7 years ago to stop speaking to my brother. And that's still really hard because I love him and he's my brother and I'd love to have a relationship with him, but he's not well and he's not a safe person to be around, so I can't do it anymore. My father passed away in 2011, but my mom's just my rock and I can talk to her about anything. I try not to dump stuff on her because I know that she'll let me. I know that she will, but I don't want to do that to her. And she seems so happy now. She's thinking about moving to Florida, and I'm seeing her after so many years of being a mother, a wife, a caretaker, 30 plus years of that, and she's finally has her own life and is doing her own thing. So when I need her help, I'll ask for it, but she gave me a lot of good tools to handle stuff on my own too, which is good, and I know that she's always there.
I've definitely felt judged, and there's a different type of standard. I mean, really good friends, I don't have to explain when I say how great it is that how well my daughter's doing, and so much of how well she's doing is how well she takes care of herself now, that she takes care of her mental health, she takes care of her physical health, she lives this balanced life that's so beautiful to see. But there's a different standard. We're used to saying, oh, my child just graduated from Harvard, my child just, got this job at this place, and my child just, and I'm thinking, my child just survived another summer. Like, my child, both of my kids just survived another holiday. And to be able to celebrate those wins, my son has struggled with homelessness throughout his adulthood, and so when he went through a period of stability and had a place to live and was going to college and doing so well, that was my Harvard. My kids are so smart and could have done anything, can do anything, but mental health has been such a barrier to being able to use those gifts maybe in the way that they might have if they didn't struggle with what they've struggled with. I'd like other families to know, when dealing with mental health issues within their own families, that it's important to talk about things from an I perspective. I feel like this, I see this, I'm worried about this, and not to blame or shame, and also to have boundaries. I think the challenge is to stay connected in love and to stay available, but not to stay available for bad behaviors or untreated mental health or substance use issues that are not healthy for the person experiencing them, and they're not healthy for the person who maybe thinks they're supporting, but oftentimes end up enabling.